Hi, everybody. Andrew Champagne here alongside JD Fox for this week's edition of Champagne and JD. As always, if you like what we do, go on down below and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our weekly updates. We've got a great show for you coming up this week, a little international racing, and some analysis of the late pick four on Rebel Saturday at Oaklawn Park. As always, we've got a terrific guest. As JD well knows, she needs no introduction, but I'm going to give her one anyway because that's just the kind of guy I am. She's done a lot of work around the industry for TVG and Past the Wire, among others. She is currently one of the faces of Geohayetee Handicapping, a terrific venture that I've been privileged to guest on a couple of times. Kaitlin Free joins us this evening. Kaitlin, welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. It's good to be here. I'm so excited you asked me to be on. Good evening.
Good evening. We're excited to have you, and we're also excited because for about the next 15 to 20 minutes, I can just sit back and make really weird signs and facial references here because JD and Kaitlin are the international experts of the three of us. I got into Australia a little bit last year and still look from time to time. I, however, am sort of a novice, especially when it comes to Japanese racing. And JD, a couple of big things going on over there in the land of the rising sun.
Yeah, obviously we touched on it at the end of 2020 that we had both a Triple Crown and a Triple Tiara winner in Japan for 3-year-old seasons, and we're getting some training for their debuts in the season. Of course, I'm talking about Contrail and Daring Tack. Of course, we saw them both in the Japan Cup last, where they ran into a buzzsaw. As expected, but Kaitlin, excited to see them back in training.
Yeah, it's exciting for them to both be back in training. They're both looking to make starts next month in April. Not going to meet up, but they will run into a few other really good horses. Contrail is going to run into Ria Amelia, who is arguably the top miler in the world right now. But as we know, Amandai is gone. So it looks like to be those three heavy hitters over in Japan right now. And of course, we also have the white filly, champion 2-year-old filly Sadashi, coming back next month for the first leg of the Phillies Triple Crown. So she'll look like, if she can, we'll see if she can replicate what Daring Tact and Amandai did the last few years. She looks pretty good, but good to have the Japanese stars back in action.
Yeah, and lots of depth in Japan with the younger crops. There seems to be more and more depth each year, which is crazy for me to say coming off of a Triple Crown and Triple Tiara win. But those were really deep fields and really competitive races. They weren't walkaways for either Contrail or Daring Tack during the trail to the Triple Crown and the Triple Tiara.
Absolutely not. They breed the best of the best over there. They oftentimes take international mares and breed them to their stallions, creating really interesting outcrosses. So that's why they have such sturdy and great horses. What I really like about there and Australia is they're not afraid to race their horses often. They usually race them once a month, which I know that sounds crazy for being often compared to it is over here. But yeah, it's exciting to see the both of them back. I'm especially excited to see what Daring Tact can do. Of course, everybody knows the story of Contrail and Daring Tact, but Daring Tact ran a really good race in the Japan Cup last year with a little bit of trouble. So I think she's going to be a force to be reckoned with in 2021.
Yeah, and obviously we can talk a little bit about the champion Amandai as well, now retired, but just some great performances. And it'll be interesting to see the spotlight shown on someone other than one of the greatest champions we've seen.
Definitely. And I don't know if you guys know this, but just yesterday it was reported that she scanned in full to Epiphanea, who is owned by the same owners. And, you know, being by Lord Kanaloa, she's out of a mare that has the Sunday Silence line. So it'd be kind of hard to place her with another stallion, and Epiphanea is kind of an outcross there. So they kind of get all of the Japanese breeding in that pair. And I'm sure they're really, really excited about that.
It'll be exciting to see when that foal comes, and I know you'll be one of the many that will just be hitting refresh on social media in a few months when we see that possibility. So you mentioned Australian racing, obviously, Kaitlin, and the big race. And I'll preface this by saying we're going to be talking about the All-Star Mile at the Valley. We realize that it is a race that will be impossible to wager on in the United States, but we're fans of international racing, so we're going to cover it anyway because we want to cover the format of the race because it's one of the coolest things that happens in horse racing. The All-Star Mile truly is the all-star game of Australian racing, Kaitlin.
It really is. It's a shame we never got to see the likes of Winks in that field because, you know, it was the race Yes.
You're muted, Andrew. I think you muted yourself.
Yes, I did. I have a question of great significance.
Let's hear it.
All-Star game. Is there a slam dunk contest? Is there a three-point contest? Do horses down there know how to, play basketball? Can that be a sequel to Air Bud? I have many questions. That's my contribution to an international horse racing segment on a serious show. And now I'm just going to, sit back and let the others bring some actual gravitas to the proceedings.
Australia is actually pretty good at basketball. So, I mean, you never know. They have some stars that came from there. But, I mean, this really is, like you said, JD, an all-star type of race. This race really was created for the likes of Winx. She never was able to race in this race. So it's exciting to see a really good group lineup. I think all of the top names all drew very well. I didn't really see any surprises out of the barrier draws. So,
and we'll go over the full field graphics here. Obviously, you're seeing the numbers and the post positions again. They are different in Australia, so the number draw doesn't necessarily match the post position draw because they are in numerical order. The top weights are first, which in this special condition race are going to be all the males. The older males are the first 8 horses all at one weight. Then Russian Camelot, as the one younger male, draws a slightly lower weight at position 9, and then 10 through 15 in the normal course of the field. These are the mares that are competing, and obviously some of the big runners in this race are in the mare side of the field. Arcadia Queen kind of being the big story, but a lot of news, Kaitlin, coming from if she's going to be able to run, because she has basically been vetted twice and not been allowed to run as of yet. She has one more chance to pass early Saturday morning, which will be midday Friday here in the States, to see if the favorite is going to run.
Yeah, that really is the big story, kind of having a little bit of issues not getting any training time. So that is really a big question mark for the favorite. I would like her in this race. I think that's going to give a lot of pause to a lot of people, as it should. But for my top selection in the race, I'm going to look to one of the other mares. I think Probabile comes in here with a big chance. You may get a more fair price on her, especially if Arcadia Queen draws in. I really liked her last 2 races. I think she's starting off very fresh for this season. And I think this distance really hits her right between the eyes.
Yeah, and obviously Probabile coming off of back-to-back wins, the pride of New Zealand, really in good form, and showed it at Caulfield, moving to Moonee Valley. I'm going to go a little, I don't want to say it's crazy, $21 right now on the Australian market on the 12 Shout the Bar for Gay Waterhouse and Adrian Bott, obviously. And really what I like is kind of the consistent form of getting ready to race. Obviously, this is going to be the second up race after the third in the Tresidie. But I really think the best race that Arcadia Queen has ever, or why did I say Arcadia Queen? Shout the Bar has ever run, was against the soft pace, where she got the lead back at the early on in the career and the Vinery Stud at Rose Hill Gardens. And I think we're going to see a similar pace. She draws well to the inside, and I really think she's going to be the early speed. And I don't know if anybody's necessarily going to go with her. So I think if she can hold with a sensible pace, I do think she has big shot here at probably what will end up being 15-1 odds or over here in the States.
I like that. Yeah, I definitely think that it's a mare's race. There's some of the males that could factor in. I think Russian Camelot has a shot. One horse that I really do not like that may still get some play is Sir Dragonet. And his last up race just left a lot to be desired for me.
Yeah, really just struggled in the first up race, and then even in the Melbourne Cup, I think that was a really disappointing performance. So obviously was spec'd at about 10-1, but ran up the track a bit. And obviously the class of the field, top weight, and the top rated horse going into this, but I don't know if that's necessarily the right spot. So 15-1 currently in the market. We will keep an eye on Sir Dragonet. And you saw the field graphics, Andrew. Do you have any selections?
Behemoth, because that's a really cool name.
Behemoth is actually a really good horse and has a big shot.
Yeah, kidding aside, I've heard of Behemoth. We've broken down a couple of his races on here. Cool horse. So cool horse, Cool concept, putting aside with the All-Star Mile. Sort of begs the question what sort of field we would get if we tried that kind of concept here. You'd probably get a whole bunch of fools on Twitter hijacking the vote with a whole bunch of horses that are either retired or passed away, which is probably why we don't have the concept here.
Exactly why we don't do it.
Yeah, because we can't have nice things. This is why we don't have nice things. However, a very nice thing is coming up this Saturday at Oaklawn Park. It is a 12-race program with a bunch of stakes races, and the main event, the Grade 2 Rebel for 3-year-olds. Kentucky Derby points are on the line, and we'll be taking a look at the late pick 4, which starts in race number 9 with one of those always tricky marathons at Oaklawn Park. In this case, it's the Temperence Hill Stakes. It's drawn a field of 10 as somebody is doing donuts in the parking garage behind my apartment. I mentioned to you guys in our lengthy pre-production meeting that I brought some props with me. And JD, you probably know where this is going. So the top 4 choices on the morning line in here: Tenfold, You're to Blame, Plainsman, and Campaign. JD, what do they have in common?
They haven't won in a while.
Exactly. So you know what I've brought back?
Hangers.
The hangers. Because that's what some of these horses that will take money have shown they can potentially be. I'm sorry. I'm done with Tenfold. I am done with You're to Blame. I am done. I have signed the divorce papers. If they beat me, I lose. And that's what makes this a very interesting betting race. I'm going 5 deep, going against both of them. And yes, I'm using a couple of the horses that haven't won in a while. I'm using Plainsman simply because this is his first time going this 1.5 mile sort of trip. And I am using number 10 Campaign. That spot last time out just made no sense. He had no business being in a grade 3 going a mile on turf. This is what he wants to do. And if he gets back to his 2019-2020 form in his second start off the bench, he does have a shot. But I do think there's room for a bigger price. Lone Rock has won 3 in a row. He is in very good form. Need to throw him in. And I'll throw in a couple of bigger prices as well that recently tried the 2-mile distance on turf at Gulfstream Park. And in both cases, for number 6 Treasure Trove and number 7 Muralist, I think those races are throwouts. I think these horses were entered to go 2 miles for the distance rather than the surface. Connections may be thinking that the distance wouldn't get them beat. Both of those horses are double digits on the morning line. In particular, Treasure Trove is very interesting. I think this is absolutely the route that he wants. On the surface, he wants to run on. 12-1 on that one. 20-1 on Muralist. Again, completely against Tenfold and You're to Blame. No way for both of them. I've dramatically thrown them out as camp as I possibly can. So you know what that means. Box the 1-2 exacta for all the money you have in your ADW. JD, where are we going next?
Gonna go with Kaitlin.
Okay, there we go.
I did end up taking You're to Blame, although I do agree with you on Tenfold and You're to Blame. I feel like they're just grasping at straws at this point with Tenfold. I don't really think he's half the horse that he used to be. Getting older now. You're to Blame I did throw in there just because I think this field ended up turning up a little bit soft. I went ahead and also threw in Plainsman. I kind of do agree with you. He hasn't won in a while, but I do think that this race could set up for him. One horse that I didn't include that I maybe thought I should have was Campaign. Is he the type of horse he used to be in 2020 and 2019? I'm not sure, getting older, but this is a good race that if he wants to get back to what he's used to doing, it's going to be here.
And really, I keep it pretty simple here. Plainsman, none of us know if Plainsman can get a 1.5 miles. I question it with the pedigree, but one thing I think is for certain, Plainsman's going to be in front and could be in front by a ways, going to take some catching. And that's why I'm going 2 deep here, because I think Campaign's the best of the closers. And I think Campaign really cherishes this distance. So we'll see if the bounce back is there to start the campaign. Obviously, don't know the entry in the turf race at Santa Anita. I'm just tossing that. Oaklawn form last year was decent in the Razorback and in this race. So, and one thing we should note when you're looking at your past performances from last year, you may see the purse for all of these races at Oaklawn. They have a nice purse increase this year from 2020 into 2021. So this was a $125,000 race last year, $150,000 race this year as we move on to race number 10, Andrew.
Race number 10 is the Hot Springs, and this is a listed stakes in billing only. This has drawn a grade 2, grade 3 caliber field, and the 8-5 morning line favorite is last year's Breeders' Cup Sprint winner, number 6, Whitmore. Whitmore is one of the most fun horses in training to root for. He's going to be favored, but this turned out to be a very strong spot, and there go the donuts again back there in the parking garage. Number 7, CZ Rocket, is the 2-1 second choice. He found new life after being claimed by Peter Miller last time out. That never happens. And then it's a distance back to the rest of the field, but perhaps number 1, Boulder, is in good form. Flagstaff is going to take some money. JD, you want me to keep going?
Yeah, you might as well get your love out of the way.
Yeah, this is going to be a popular single for a lot of reasons. Whitmore is a closer in a race full of speed over a track he loves. 9 for 14 at Oaklawn Park. This is a horse for course, and if he's anywhere close to the horse we saw jog in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, I think he wins. He's got a couple of very strong recent workouts here at Oaklawn for Ron McQuett, who's enjoyed a very strong meet. McQuett can get a horse ready to run off the bench. I think Whitmore is the most likely winner of this sequence, and I needed to single in a spot because I thought the bookends were incredibly challenging. So I've instead tried to use this pick 4 as a way to get some value out of a horse that's 8-5 on the morning line, and I think is going to go off closer to even money, maybe 6-5. If we can turn that horse into a 5 or 6-1 shot, it's not sexy, but the math checks out. Whitmore a single for me. If he does not win, I lose.
I have 2 of my favorite horses in training and favorite sprinters in this race. They finished 1-2 in this race last year. I'm going with the 3, Mr. Jägermeister, and the 6, Whitmore. I think Mr. Jägermeister is faster than CZ Rocket. I think Mr. Jägermeister gets the lead, and someone will need to catch. And obviously, that's Whitmore's game. So obviously have to respect Whitmore include. Maybe I'm going out on a limb here, Mr. Jägermeister, 10-1 morning line. I expect that to come down a little bit. Mr. Jägermeister is just one of the coolest horses you're going to find. Minnesota bred that's won over $600,000 in share purses. So 3-6 in race number 10 for me. Kaitlin.
It was hard for me not to single Whitmore in here, but I went ahead and took another horse that appreciates a fast pace as well. I took Engaged. I think this horse had a pretty nice 2020. He seems to be getting better with age. The Asmussen barn is pretty hot. Joe Talamo is riding much better outside of California, so I went ahead and gave him a shot as well with Whitmore.
Engage, I actually found mildly intriguing as well. This is a horse that has shown a lot of ability, goes second off the bench. My thing is, he's turned 6 years old. Is he past his peak? I don't know. But 8-1 on the morning line, I think you'll get. So if you're going to include another runner in here at a bit of a price, you could certainly do far worse. And this is another horse that doesn't necessarily need the lead in order to run well. I just preferred others on top. Could a 6-4 Exacta come in and be a good value play, though? Absolutely. And speaking of value, I'm going to take a swing against the morning line favorite in the main event of the program. That's race number 11, the grade 2 Rebel. $1 million is on the line. 3-year-olds going a mile and a 16th. Caddo River is your 9-5 morning line favorite. Concert Tour, one of 2 shipping in for Bob Baffert. Keep Me in Mind comes in for Robertino Diodoro. However, it's a good field. Get Her Number gets the campaign underway. Last time out, he won the Grade 1 American Pharaoh. Couple of horses coming in from maiden and allowance races, getting class tests. This is a really cool race, and it's fitting that this is the main event of the program. They had to delay it a little bit, but it comes up ultra salty here. And I guess I'll keep going because I see my ticket down there on the screen. I try to give JD a little bit of leeway as far as, where we're going. He's the one that's driving the train here. But I'm going against Caddo River. I thought Caddo River had it really easy last time out in the Smarty Jones, and I just don't think he beat anybody that day. He's going to have competition up front. Yes, he gets the rail, and that does help a little bit. But I'm looking at the past performances here. Get Her Number. If that horse doesn't get the lead, will not be far off of it. Concert Tour has a lot of early speed, and I don't think Super Stock is going to be far off of it either. I think they're going to go very fast. Concert Tour for me is a must-use based on the pedigree. He's by Street Sense out of a Tappet mare that screams 2 turns. He may well be better going 2 turns than 1 turn. But My top pick is actually Keep Me in Mind, who hits me as the lone true closer in this race. I did not like him at all in the Grade 2 Kentucky Jockey Club. He was impressive that day. He rated well behind a pretty moderate pace. He was last in a field of 9, going 48-1 to the half, and then 112-4 for 6 furlongs. That's not fast. He was clearly the best horse that day, and I think Keep Me in Mind gets another dream setup here, 4-1 on the morning line, and I think we're going to get that price because Concert Tour is going to get bet, Caddo River is going to get bet, and that means Keep Me in Mind is the almost certain third choice, maybe even higher than that if he winds up dead on the board. 6-7 for me, taking a stand against Caddo River. JD, who's next?
Kaitlin.
I did nearly the same thing. I did, however, throw in Caddo River. I'm with you. I'm not sure what he beat last out, but a lot of the numbers suggest that he could be the best horse in this field. So I threw him in anyway. I believe Hosier's in this field to hound that horse and a few other ones. So that leaves me a little uneasy, but I kept him on the ticket anyway. I think if you're going to ever beat Concert Tour, I think he's probably Baffert's second best horse behind Life is Good. I think if you're ever going to catch this horse, it's going to be this race because I just think the field is just too good to use him as a single. My top choice in here is also Keep Me in Mind. I think this race really sets up for him. I liked what he did in his last race. I just really like this horse all around, and the Diodoro barn couldn't be any hotter. So Keep Me in Mind for me, but I'm going to use the other top 2 choices.
And guess what, folks? We're going to make it a clean sweep. Keep Me in Mind is also my top selection in this race for many of the reasons you guys mentioned.
Who are you, and what have you done with my co-host?
So I'm gonna talk about Get Her Number. Obviously,
I'd
coming
love
out
to
of American,
file a missing persons report in the state of Arizona, please.
I want to talk about Get Her Number. Obviously, been on the layoff since September, but you look at that American Pharoah race, and we question who Caddo River beat. I can tell you who Get Her Number beat the El Camino Real Derby champion in Rombauer and distanced from Spielberg, who ran pretty decently the last couple out. So I really think Get Her Number getting back on board for Peter Miller. Not really worried about Peter Miller off the layoff. The work tab is okay. You don't really have a lot of comparison running at San Luis Rey because, 1 of 4 works, 1 of 1 on the day, 1 of 3. So it's tough to say how fast the works were going versus the surface versus this and that. But Peter Miller knows what he's doing. I'm not really concerned there. Keep Me in Mind also, can close. And really that's what I'm looking for is I think Get Her Number is very tactical and can be placed a lot of places. But I do think Caddo River, Concert Tour, and Hosier are all going to go gun to the lead. And while I do think that benefits Concert Tour out of all those horses, I think Concert Tour is probably the best speed out of that. I still think there could be too much speed going against a track that really this meet has been a speed bias track. I think something's going to have to give. And if you see a really fast quarter and a really fast half on the board, if there was in-play wagering, I would just dump all of my money and Keep Me in Mind. But obviously, we're behind the rest of the gambling world. So we're just going to have to make our money ahead of time. And that's why I think I have the 3rd and 4th choices on the board here going too deep. And that's giving me lots of coverage for a race that did not treat me well last year, Andrew.
Couple of things here. First of all, what you're saying is we go 4-6-6 the first 3 legs. We're all live. So let's just do that. They didn't have to run the races. Just post the payouts right now. We'll wind up skipping to the last race. And yeah, if you haven't seen our best of from last year, what happened in this race last year leads off that show. It is one of the worst handicapping beats I have ever seen. This guy was live to a pick 4, singled to a ridiculous price for a lot of money, and wound up losing to a re-rally on the rail. Take a look. It's absolutely brutal. Have a vomit bucket handy. That's how bad it is. Now, race number 12, the finale of the Saturday card, is a starter allowance event. Older horses going 1 mile. We've got an overflow field. 12 horses will go postward. We've got 2 also eligibles, including a horse that both Kaitlin and I like a fair bit, and that's Gallant Plunger, horse number 14, that's going to need 2 scratches in order to draw in. As a result, I've used him. understand that my $30 ticket is going to likely come down in price because either he's going to scratch or likely at least one other horse that I used going 6 deep in this field is going to scratch. So I think you need to spread in here. That's for darn sure. There are a couple of prices in here that I absolutely think you need to consider. Number 10, Off the Meds. Funny name. Won the local debut last time out, granted against a far weaker group, but goes second off the layoff for Ingrid Mason, a very capable barn, and will likely be a pretty big price. My top selection, though, is number 4, Optimus Cat, who last time out looked really, really good. Yes, it was against maiden claimers, but won by nearly 7 lengths. They ran this horse in some very tough spots last year, including a couple of turf races. And with the pedigree, it makes sense. By Optimizer, good turf horse. Out of a Kitten's Joy Mare, really good turf horse. So obviously this would be a turf horse, right? Right? Wrong. This horse was not a turf horse and was running against some pretty good turf runners at Kentucky Downs and at Keeneland. I think there's a chance this is a horse just doing what it wants to do. And while this is a big class jump on paper, and while he is running up against older horses, it's not like he's running up against any world beaters in here. Optimus Cat 6-1 on the morning line has been working fairly well. I'm using him. He's my tepid top pick. Obviously, I think you need to spread in here, though. I went 6 deep at least to start. We'll see how it winds up once scratches and changes get posted. If horse number 14 in your program does draw in, use that horse. That win last time out in the mud, very, very good. And he's run well at Oaklawn Park several times.
And Kaitlin, you are going 3 deep here to close out your $27 play.
Only went 3 deep here, which is a little bit surprising. I could have gone way deeper. But Optimus Cat is also going to be my top choice. I included him, right?
Yeah, you did.
I thought I did. He is also my top choice in here as well with Gallant Plunger, should he draw in. The form just holds up for Gallant Plunger. Oaklawn, potential to maybe be a little wet. So I went ahead and took that horse, hoping he draws in. But I agree with everything you said on Optimus Cat. This horse is kind of an anomaly. I really thought Optimizer was going to be a pretty decent stallion once his crops hit the ground, and this is from his first crop. The horse could run on dirt and turf just as well. Ran in the Kentucky Derby, almost beat Wise Dan on the turf. He's a very versatile horse. I think Calumet gave him a really decent chance as a stallion. So I like Optimus Cat, and I threw another horse in here. I just went with the Hot Barnes. Not a lot of form really jumped out at me in this race. Like I said, I could have spread a little bit deeper.
So 4-7-14 to close it out for Kaitlin. Don't worry, Andrew. Your co-host has come back here. I'm going 5
Okay, good.
I'm going to quiz you on something.
Never mind. Yes.
I'm going to quiz you on two horses here.
Okay.
The first one is going to be my top choice, also sitting on the AE list. That's the 13, General Trev. Who did General Trev narrowly lose to last year, a horse that ended up on the Derby Trail that I liked just a little bit last year? Yes.
Did I use the right eye?
I believe you did. I believe you did. Finnick the Fierce.
Finnick the Fierce, yes.
Then was on the shelf, came back, claiming company last time out for Asmussen in the slop, ran away, going 6 1/4. This horse won on debut at Oaklawn, going a mile. This seems like a no-brainer. I'm not concerned about the barn switch to Greg Compton. His first off the claim numbers are not great, but this horse is in great form, and this horse has a lot of skill. The other horse I want to quiz you on, Andrew, is the 9 Handy, who comes from the same race as the 14 Gallant Plunger. Who was the best horse in that race, Andrew? Are you sticking with Gallant Plunger?
Yes, and I'm going to tell you why, because I saw that and went, 12-1 on a horse that only got beat 2 lengths. Then I looked at the comment lines for Handy. There are some horses that just find trouble. They go out of their way to do that. Here are the recent running lines. Traffic 3/16, empty inside, steadied off rail, 5-path, 3-path, bumped start. This is a horse that finds trouble. If he ever gets a clean trip, I think he's a decent horse. And you're getting 12-1, so I understand why you're using the horse. To me, though, those horses tend to be money burners more often than not. But if you're live and you hit with that horse, that's a horse that's going to pay a lot bigger than 12-1 in the pick 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like another double digits odd horse, and that's the 10 off the meds. And no, I'm not off the meds here, coming off of a $20,000 claiming score. You talked about Kaitlin going, you're going with the hot barns. I'm apparently going with the absolute ice cold barns. Ingrid Mason, usually a good barn at Oaklawn, has been freezing cold this meet, but this is a winner in the barn last time out at 10-1 and $28,000 claiming company. The starter allowance condition is not that big of a jump up in class, and I do think this horse can pass horses late. So I also want to mention the 12 Rob the Rich, another just crazy price I have, 20-1 on the morning line. I throw that last race out, did not jump out of the gate, did not really leave the gate with the rest of the field if you watch the replay. And this is a horse that's usually first or second out of the gate. So I think this is the speed of the race with the outside rail. Clean, Joe Talamo gets a clean start, going to take this horse to lead, going to be tough to catch at a long price. So I'm going 5 deep here. My top choice isn't in the field, and I also like a 20-1 shot. So either I've gone crazy or we're going to hit a big score for this $20 play, Drew.
Hey, at least there's a very clear line. One note on Rob the Rich, the more I'm looking at this horse and the more I'm looking at the pedigree, why haven't they tried turf with this horse? By his stand out of a Lemon Drop Kidmare. That's turf top and bottom. 260 turf Tomlinson's far from bad. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw that horse on the turf at some point. Obviously, though, that will not be at Oaklawn, a track with no turf course. Anyway, those are our pick 4 tickets. We've got a couple of deviating approaches in the last leg, but there's a lot of common ground in the first 3. Take parts of our tickets scrolling over here that you like, eliminate the parts that you don't. The important thing, get involved. It's a very good card on Saturday at Oaklawn Park, one I am very much looking forward to betting. Now time for our final thoughts segment. And Kaitlin, this is the segment where we give our guests the floor to spout on anything they would like to spout about, whether that's promoting things that they're working on, thoughts that are going through their heads, anything you want to talk about, the floor is yours.
Well, I guess the first thing I would like to say is while I'm here, everybody should check out Geohayetee Handicapping. That is the new site that I've been working for with Andy Villanueva.
Hi, Andy.
Andy's awesome. We love Andy. He is my lovely co-host on our podcast. Andrew, you've already been on with us. JD, we will have to get you on ASAP. And I thank you guys for letting me on your show. I'm a big fan. Gives me a lot of really good insight. So I'm excited to be here. And there is a special guest that is also excited to be here.
The one and only Squirm Cat, everybody.
The one and only, the master. He's very sleepy. He's like, oh.
Why are you waking me up with your noise, human? Yes, my cat has the same setting. I hear you. He is actually out sleeping over there in the next room. That is King Elliott. And by the way, if you're trying to stay, book your mares to King Elliott and Off Pacing, you can't. He filled up his last season. Thank you to everyone for your support. JD, your turn.
All right. I'm going to talk about Arizona racing.
Woohoo! Uplifting, everybody.
Positive news. So Arizona Downs is in a partnership with Peninsula Pacific Racing, same folks that are handling Colonial Downs. And that track management is going to run a 32-date meet, June 1st through September 15th, 32 dates. They're shooting for $75,000 in purses per day. It's exciting news in the state of Arizona. It's some positive news. And that happened last week. The commission meeting today, I won't get into it. It's just more of the same Arizona crap that I saved for another show that I do that I will not be on this week because I am too angry right now based on what happened today. So that's foreshadowing for next week, maybe on this show, maybe on another platform. We'll tell you where you can get my angst and anger about Arizona racing. But exciting news for Arizona Downs. Exciting to see the horsemen in Arizona have a place to run this summer, and as opposed to finding anywhere else and taking their horses out of state. Everybody's going to be able to stay in and have a nice meet at the Bull Ring up in Prescott. Andrew?
Really excited to hear the Arizona Downs news because I know that's something that's near and dear to your heart, and it's good to see that they're on track to at least do something this summer, given everything that's been going on in Arizona. And, given the fact that apparently that good news came with a heaping load of horrible news, good that there's something to at least kind of balance that out. And by the way, in case anyone from Arizona Downs is watching, I work cheap and have lots of free time. Now, speaking of the whole having lots of free time thing, I'm going to use the first part of my final thought for a cheap plug because I've done something that I swore to myself I would never, ever, ever do. Ever. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Instagram, and JD, you're going to put your head in your hands. I can tell
128 winners. Yes, I know.
Yes. That's the thing with me having waited like 10 or 15 years to get on Instagram. Anything connected to my actual name right in here was taken. So I went with what may as well be my trademark. 128 winners is to me as 4 touchdowns in a single game was to Al Bundy, in case you couldn't figure that out. But I'm on there. We've started a little shtick, my cat and I, as far as picking college basketball games. He's 3-1. I'm 0-2. I don't know who had this idea, but it's awful. Anyway, if you'd like to keep up with the antics, hijinks, shenanigans, and tomfoolery at 128 winners on Instagram, if there's anything in particular you'd like to see, let me know. Always happy to interact with the people that are passionate about this game, other games, anything in general. As mentioned, a lot of free time right now. And speaking of which, I've been reading a lot in my free time, and I just want to recommend an article that I thought was hysterical and insightful at the same time. This article was on Vice, and the title of this article, I wish I was making this up, but the actual title is "Here's Why Everyone is Acting Like an Asshole Lately." It's food for thought, and it's a reminder to everybody that even though we can see light at the end of the tunnel, there are a lot of people who are still struggling for various reasons, some of which are public, most of which are not. It's chaos out there. Be kind, everyone. You never know what the person you're talking to is going through. So when in doubt, just be nice.
It's free to be nice.
Yeah, costs nothing. Costs absolutely nothing to be nice. So that probably didn't take the turn you thought it would, JD. Now did it?
No, I just thought it was going to be something to throw back to 128 winners and that one summer in Saratoga and yada, yada, yada. And we're how many days from Saratoga, blah, blah, blah. You know, the normal stuff.
That's coming up fairly soon, right? April, May, June, 4 months. Holy wow, 4 months until Saratoga. Maybe they'll have fans. Maybe I'll be able to go during Travers Week. My stepbrother is getting married in Boston on Travers Eve. So fingers, toes, and eyes all crossed for that one. At any rate, stay tuned for all the latest news and notes on that in future editions of Champagne and JD. That's about it for this week's show. Kaitlin Free, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you on social media?
People can find me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm sorry, I don't have a TikTok. I'm refusing.
Yeah, that's still a bridge too far for me too.
Yeah, definitely. At Kaitlin E. Free on Twitter and at Kaitlin Free on Instagram.
Perfect. And thank you so much. And obviously, Geohayetee Handicapping, the name of her venture with Andy Villanueva. Great guy, knowledgeable dude. Was excited to be on his show. And JD, you're going to love being on that show too. It's a lot of fun with some passionate people who care very deeply about the future of this game. That'll do it for this week on Champagne and JD. As mentioned, if you like what we do, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our weekly updates. Next week might be a little bit interesting. I'm going to Las Vegas for the first week of the basketball tournament, so JD might need to call in a pinch hitter off the bench. I just go down the list of the available people and see who we haven't ticked off yet. That'll narrow the list pretty significantly.
We have a permanent guest co-host of this show, so I don't know why you're expecting anything less. We'll tease next week, but if you've watched the show, you know who 99% is going to be in Andrew's chair next week.
You really don't know how to book surprise angles, do you? No wonder you don't have a job with AEW. Like, come on, you got to get better at this. How are we supposed to ever book our professional wrestling territory if you can't book a surprise angle?
Because I wouldn't want it to have an explosion that disappointed everybody.
Fair. And that's the Veiled Wrestling reference for this week's show if you're playing bingo along with us. However, for Kaitlin Free and JD Fox, I'm Andrew Champagne. Thank you so much for tuning in. Best of luck with all your wagers on Rebel Day at Oaklawn Park and all around the country, really. It's a pretty cool weekend of racing going on. JD, you want to hit him with the catchphrase?
Stay off the beaches.
Have a good weekend, everybody.